Hi Spud Diggers, we're just going on a little tour of the Silver Reef Museum. This is the oldest, longest Wells Fargo in the country. It's still in operation. This is where the stagecoach would dismount. Look at this. There's a lot of silver found up here. Cool buildings. Just before I go in, let's show you the outside. Look at these. Wow. If you're ever in St. George area, come on out here. It's a fantastic area to sightsee and get some of the history of this location. Oh, look at that building over there. I don't know if you can see it. I might take a little quick drive over there after I go in there. This is great. All right, let's go in. I won't bore you with the steps to the door. A lot of information. Oh, an old wagon. Oh, that's cool. Alright, I'm just going to head in there to the museum. Look at this, old Wells Fargo. And then this is...
That's the map of the town.
Yeah.
Main Street was over a mile long. Over 100 businesses were here.
Oh, that's cool. Look at that.
Our building,
Yeah.
our building, the Wells Fargo building's right here. Main Street was over a mile long. There was a Catholic church.
Wow.
This is a hotel, the Harrison House Hotel. 50 people could get room and board. They had a pool hall.
Mm-hmm.
It was quite the place. One guy said it was as good as the Waldorf Astoria.
And then cannonballs? What's that all about?
Those were used later. They found uranium here in the 40s, and those were done in the mill. They had big barrels that would roll, and those balls would fall and crush it.
Right.
When they were doing the silver, they used this. This is a stamp mill, and there would be a belt here that would turn this and crush the rock in these stamps.
Wow.
And make it into a sand or powder. And then they added mercury, which came in a liquid form, to that powder. Like this sand here, you can see the little black dots. That would be representation of what silver would look like. And they would add mercury to that. That creates amalgamation, where it draws the ore to it. And then they would heat that up, vaporize the mercury off, and they get the ore. And the bank section, as you come in, take a
Here's
left,
the bank
and that's
section.
the vault.
Oh, wow.
The original bank vault for Wells Fargo. The walls are over 3 feet thick, and you can see the doors it's a double door system, so you have these doors that you could shut, and then this door had a locking mechanism with pins that would go in here and secure it even further.
That's cool.
You'll notice the ceiling is rounded off. Of course, gives it more strength, and the walls go all the way down into the ground to keep anybody from digging in. We've done there's a good display on the money, and you may want to get a couple of those certificates. Yeah, watch your step in your head.
Look at this.
At one time, it was safer to send a certificate for money, you know, like basically a money order, because it was addressed to somebody's name, and you could trade it in wherever you were going. And it would, if you got robbed, you know, you wouldn't lose your coin. It was easy to steal coins, but a check with your name on it wouldn't be cashable. Or it'd be harder anyway. The door has been removed, so the main section, but it also had this locking system where pens would go in. And this is where you keep paper documents, mine claims.
Right.
This is your original strong box that wrote on the stage.
Oh, wow.
The green color that you can kind of see there is the signature color Wells Fargo used on their strong boxes. And there were different sizes and different materials that they used, but a common one was wood. And that's, you know, you see the guys.
Some period dresses right there.
Their curling irons they used. Of course, they just put those in a fire, get them red hot, stick in their hair. I call them a branding iron, but button hooks, because you didn't have zippers, and you would use these hooks to reach in. Even your shoes just had buttons at one point. And you would use that to get that. The Chinese were here. This is some of the artifacts from the Chinese. We had about 250 Chinese at one time that lived here. There were cultures from all over the world. But the Chinese, after they were working on the railroad, and the railroad was completed across country, and so they went into mining towns. And the miners didn't care for them very much, and they kept them separate from everybody else. And so just south of us, of town, was the Chinatown, and there were about 50 Chinese that we know of that were living there at one time. And they ran businesses that the other people didn't like to do, like the laundry, the drugstores. Sam Wing was what we called the mayor of our Chinatown, and he was kind of a liaison between the miners and the Chinese. He got along with everybody, and
I love those bottles. Those bottles are cool.
And then on the bad side, we had the opium trade going on. We had a guy by the name they called China Joe, who was a very wealthy opium dealer and landowner here in town. But he dated white women, and the miners didn't really care for that from a Chinaman, so they burned his house down. And they thought it was pretty cute. They even put an article in the paper the next day. Should have seen old China Joe coming out in the middle of the night with his pantaloons on and his overnight Susie with barely a stitch of clothes on.
And this is the chap right there,
China Joe.
China Joe.
That's our representation of him. They also like to gamble just like the miners did, and there was a game here called Bakat Boo, which translates to White Pigeon Ticket. Later, as you can see, the characters were replaced by numbers. There's 80 characters there, or 80 numbers, so you get Keno. It's even marked up like a Keno ticket if you go to Vegas.
That's cool.
But also lottery, the lotto came out of that. You could win up to $10,000 on a $2 ticket here, which is like $200,000 in those days. Part of an opium here, this is part of an opium pipe, the bowl of that, and then the little jars they would carry opium. And then also this metal lid is to an opium container that they would ship in from China. And there's little characters on there that tells the company that shipped it, and they would look for that like a trademark, looking for that information. Some of the buildings that were in town, there's our main street. Here's our building. There's mulberry trees out here. The pioneers planted those because they knew silkworms like mulberry trees, and they get the silk. This one is still alive out here. It still produces mulberries. That's the Harrison House, which was the biggest hotel. 50 people could get room and board there. And then the Cosmopolitan. And Mrs. Grams owned the Cosmopolitan, which was a restaurant. She was a single a widow and a pretty powerful businesswoman here. She also owned a furniture store next door and even a little hotel.
That's cool. The bottles are cool.
They found bottles from all over the world, every kind of bottle you can imagine, everything from hair dyes to bitters. You know, we could get champagne from France. Bottles were probably the easiest to find.
I just love.
They've been pretty well picked through, you know, and then some they found that were even rare bottles, and people would put them on a stick and break them, you know, shoot them.
Look at these, all period. Wow. That's it.
Also, you like bottles, you notice this one there with those.
No, I've never seen one of those before.
That's so that it won't settle. Stuff won't settle at the bottom of the barrel of the bottle. So you would have to keep it on its side, and it would move around, keep it from settling.
Oh, that's cool.
This display is showing Dr. Schuyler from the University of Pennsylvania. He came here in the early 1980s with a group from his school, a bunch of kids, and they did a dig here, and that was right before this became a gallery and a museum. And they took back items from their dig, and they've been studying them since the 1980s. And they've given us a lot of information of some of the stuff about the Chinese. They found dice and of course the Chinese coins and things like that. These tobacco tags are kind of neat. Back in the day, tobacco came in like a brick, and you used like a paper cutter, if you will, to cut off squares. And then these little tags would be their label, or they would stick in the tobacco. And of course, guys that chewed tobacco would even use the little prongs to pick their teeth or whatever. We would use called sad irons. You put this in the fire, getting really hot, and then you would need towels or rags to protect your hands. Then they came up with this idea with a handle that could be removed, and you could keep one iron on the stove getting hot and be using the other one. When it cools off, go over and just switch the handle.
That's cool.
Now you always wanted at least 2 of these sad irons, but not more than 2, or you had too many irons in the fire. What does this look like? Like a steam iron?
Yeah.
A lot of people guess that because nobody's crazy enough to realize they put fuel in here. Like a Coleman lantern, you would put liquid fuel in here, pump air into this valve, which you could shut after you pressurized it, turn this valve, and light the gas here, and you have a self-heating iron.
Wow.
A fluter, also part of the ironing culture. If ladies wanted ruffles or flutes in their dress, they would heat this up like the iron, put the fabric between here, and you get ruffles. Example of a stove that would be carried around. You could order off of this. He would carry just the stove, and even the pots and pans. So you could try it out if you wanted to, and then the big one would come there. The block planes, these are more what we're familiar with, but this is original versions. They would use an iron blade like this and carry that with them, and then they could make the rest of it wherever they went. That's an English saddle. This is, the guys were very wealthy compared to everybody. They made $4 a day. Most generally made $1.50 a day.
Yeah.
So they had a lot of extra income, and this would be somebody showing off their. That's not
Status.
what they would wear, a regular Western saddle, or what they would use. But an English saddle like that would be to show your wealth. Different bottles. I mean, they had every kind of medicine, every special snake oil cure. This is our reef here. This pink is showing it's basically the ridge, and this area is where they found most of the silver, and even along this ridge. And they found some down in this side, on the other side of Leeds, down by the river, which is where the first mill was put in, 60s. And they staked claims. Basically, it was 300 feet wide by 1,500 feet long claim. The deal was, this is, the whole area was under the ocean 300 million years ago. Utah was underwater. There was a Jurassic Sea that went through here. And so we find fossils of fish and plants. It was tropical at one time here as well.
Oh, that's cool.
And so this is brought to us by the Dinosaur Museum down in St. George.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Please come to the museum, speak with Eric. He is fantastic, and he's got a lot of knowledge, and I really enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
I'm not a historian, I got to tell you. I'm what you call a historian. That's he be telling stories.
I love it. Thank you. Here's some really good resources on the town, Silver Reef, and the museum. Look at this, silver in sandstone. It's a good historic site. Building. I'm just taking a quick little drive around this Silver Reef area. Oh, look at that. I wish I could detect it. Oh. Oh, there's that restaurant. That's cool. Look at that building. That's awesome. Look at that. Look at this. It's the old mine. Oh, that's awesome. Whoa. Well, Spud Diggers, thanks for watching this little history trip. Really appreciate our new subscribers. Have a great week. Happy hunting. And please subscribe.